Let's begin our call today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for this information session on the Global Compact's portfolio of peer learning groups. We call this session Your Questions Answered because we hope that it will be very informative, featuring a number of the questions that we frequently are hearing from participants interested in peer learning groups, but we'll also open the floor for you to ask your own questions using the Q&A function in Zoom. Before I get started, I do want to draw your attention to the fact that this webinar is available with Spanish interpretation. To access the interpretation, please click the interpretation button at the bottom or top of your Zoom screen and select Spanish as your language choice for today. We'll stop to give people a moment to get started. As we're beginning, I am really grateful to introduce you to my colleague, Caitlin Kennedy, who will be joining me today. My name is Caitlin Casey. I work at the UN Global Compact here in New York, and Caitlin and I together work to coordinate the portfolio of peer learning groups in very close collaboration with our issue colleagues on the programs team who are leading our work on climate, gender, water, human rights, labor, finance. So they are in the lead on the content, and then of course, very closely with our local networks who deliver and lead our peer learning groups locally. Caitlin and I will take the session today together. And luckily you can just address Caitlin and you will get both of us at any time. So we are here for you and excited to tackle your questions. For an agenda, I'll first go over the peer learning groups as an experience that the Global Compact offers to our participants. And then we'll talk a bit more about the sessions, the types of peer learning groups that are available for you to join. And then I'll turn it over to Caitlin, who will lead us through the frequently asked questions portion of the day. Please don't feel the need to wait until the Q&A portion to be submitting your questions. We would love to see questions coming in, again, using that Q&A function on your Zoom controls at any time, and we'll get to them whenever we are able to. With that, we will kick off by looking at the portfolio of peer learning groups. This is the second year that the Global Compact has offered peer learning groups as a part of our global programming portfolio. We were so excited to have it for the first time last year, building on the great success of the peer learning groups that many local networks have been running in their countries for many years in the past. But what we saw, thinking about ways that we wanted companies participating in the Global Compact to be able to engage, was that we really wanted to create a space where our participating companies are able to learn from the experiences of their peers, others in their country, to discuss the sustainability challenges that they're facing, the strategies that are working to overcome those challenges, new and emerging technologies and how they can be implemented, and hopefully come together in a community of like-minded individuals working together to advance and propel their companies forward. So we do hope that participating in a peer learning group will mean that you have access to a safe space for these types of challenging and bold conversations, places where you can speak very openly about what you experience in your job on a daily basis, as well as access to a community network support system of peers within your country who are working on these same challenges. And then finally, of course, we want to be ensuring that you have access to the wide range of resources that the Global Compact and our partner organizations have available to you to help you advance along your sustainability journey. We have a number of new topics that we're excited to launch for peer learning groups this year. These topics collectively represent the priority areas where the Global Compact has seen a need for both an opportunity for companies to really make a difference, move the needle, drive impact in terms of delivering sincere progress towards these sustainability challenges, as well as places where there's a need for us to really accelerate progress. So not just where can business have an influence, but where do we need them to be prioritizing that influence? Those topics include gender equality, a just transition to a new economy, living wage, water resilience, sustainable finance and investment. And then our sixth, a little bit broader, one that we carry on from last year, targeting our small and medium-sized enterprise participants on understanding sustainability and the 10 principles. These topics align with the Global Compact's relatively new Forward Faster initiative. This is a global call to action for companies to be setting ambitious, credible targets that they'll be able to follow up on over time, demonstrate progress, and really use it as a way to position themselves as leaders in sustainability who are taking concrete action to advance sustainability. The targets, so what is behind Forward Faster is a set of ambitious targets that we encourage companies to be setting goals that are aligned to the level of ambition outlined in those targets and then sharing that publicly. We know that these can, for some companies, seem very ambitious, not something that you would necessarily feel comfortable committing to publicly today. And all to say that that is really the opportunity I think that peer learning groups provide. If you have set a target aligned to the Forward Faster area and you're trying to figure out the best way to realize that goal, or if you're interested in taking action on one of those areas but aren't quite sure how to get started, really anywhere along that spectrum, you are going to benefit from participating in a peer learning group and having that safe space to be discussing with your peers the progress that you're trying to make, what you're, overall the way that you're trying to move your company forward. So this is a new feature of the peer learning groups for this year because Forward Faster is new this year, and we think that it provides us with a really strong call to action behind the peer learning groups, even as they remain a space for learning, right? So if you sign up for a peer learning group, you do not have to sign up for a Forward Faster area. You do not have to already have signed up for a Forward Faster area. There's no pressure. This is a learning environment, but we think that it is really potentially compelling to be connected to companies that are working towards the same challenging issues. Each of our peer learning groups, and we'll talk about this in a bit more detail coming up, but each of the peer learning groups is offered by our local networks in those countries. So some networks are doing multiple peer learning groups, some are only doing one. This shows you the spread between which countries are offering which peer learning groups. So we will come to this in more detail, but this is just to give you an overview of the spread across the 6 peer learning groups, which networks are offering which groups. So now we're going to move into the frequently asked question portion. What I think I will, for this one, take the first question. Or Caitlin, do you want this one? And then I'll take this one. I'm trying to remember. So the first question is really understanding better how the peer learning groups are structured. So I'll take these and then hand it over to Caitlin after we talk a bit about this. So each of the peer learning groups will have about 5 to 6 live 90-minute sessions over the course of 2024. In some countries, that's going to be just in the latter half of the year. Some are going to spread it out over 8 months or so. So that could look a little bit different, but in every case, you'll have 5 to 6 sessions. And in each of them, we will be talking about a different step in the process that we've seen of setting and realizing ambitious goals. The sessions are facilitated by local networks, and again, are really oriented on peer-to-peer discussion. So you'll be provided with case examples to discuss, as well as group exercises that invite you to think through how these questions relate to your company and what the steps you can take are going forward. Again, this is a facilitated discussion led by our local networks, but a lot of it is self-driven, self-guided conversation between the peers. So this is not the sort of activity, I would say, where you can log on and do your email on the side. We really want everyone to be coming in ready and prepared to contribute, learn, and hear from one another. When we talk about the steps connected to goal setting, there are 5 steps that the Global Compact, are common to many people working in sustainability, but really reflect a cycle that the Global Compact has articulated in a number of resources over the years, including the SDG Compass and the management model. And we find that it reflects sort of the different challenges that you would face along the way of setting a target. So what we will do, these 5 sessions would start with, first, naturally understanding the current trends and dilemmas related to that topic as we see it from the issue leads perspectives here in New York, but also what you're experiencing within your country. When we think about water resiliency, what's unique to your circumstance? What are the emerging trends, and how do we grapple with that? So that's to be sure that everyone starts with a shared language and understanding of the current scenario. From there, we'll move to setting goals, which is understanding how to define corporate goals with that high level of ambition that's outlined by the Forward Faster targets. The second is thinking through challenges that you may face while working to integrate responsibility and accountability for achieving these goals across your company. Who needs to be involved? What are the sort of actions that you and your business are positioned to take? The fourth is on effective reporting and communication, right? We want to have a platform for companies to be reporting on their progress and achieving these goals over time. So what does the effective communication around that look like? And then the fifth is on stakeholder engagement and policy advocacy. We know going to be hard to achieve these goals alone. So what works in terms of bringing in other stakeholders and partners to support you? So we do hope that by the end, you as a participant would feel very confident either having defined a new ambitious goal with an action plan, or that if you already have one, that you feel more supported and prepared to deliver on it. The second would be to ensure that you've gained knowledge and insights, again, from your peers to have that inspiration to take forward and support your company in this journey. And then again, we hope that you're well connected to a network of peers who are able to continue these conversations outside of the context of these sessions. The peer learning group on SMEs, understanding sustainability, is a little bit different because, again, it's targeting our small and medium-sized enterprises, and we want to be sure that they have, or that you in this case, are able to access sort of the core materials and understanding at the base of the Global Compact and the 10 principles as you work to integrate that into your company. So we start with a session on the business case for sustainability, and then we move into challenges on human rights, labor rights, environment, anti-corruption, and the 6th is on reporting and taking action. So covering the basics, but want to be sure that we really are digging into understanding the 10 principles and the 4 principal areas that are covered. With that, Caitlin, we've started to talk a little bit about who should participate in the time commitment, but I'd love if you could tell us in more detail what people should expect.
Yes, thank you, Caitlin. So, in terms of eligibility, we do ask that you be a member of the Global Compact and participating in one of the Global Compact local networks that is offering the PLGs. You can nominate 1 to 2 representatives from your organization who can speak to this topic. And in most countries, there's no additional cost to participate. So I saw that question in the Q&A. By and large, there is not, but as we mentioned, each network is running things a little bit differently. So just confirm with your network once you've signed up. Space is limited. We want to keep this to a size where conversation is easy and flows. So make sure you sign up if you're interested so that you can get your name added to that PLG in your network. And then in terms of who should participate, really companies of all sizes and levels of advancement on the topic are welcome. As Caitlin mentioned, you don't have to have set a target on this topic, but if you have, that's great. There's also space for you in this program. And we think it can really apply to people at all levels of working on these topics. Really want you to be able to commit to being part of this community, being able to share and learn and engage with your peers. And you are able to join multiple tracks, different PLGs, different topics. If that's of interest to you and your company, you can just refill out that form and let us know the ones that you'd like to participate in. So then in terms of time commitment, as Caitlin mentioned, there'll be 5 to 6 90-minute sessions over the course of the year. Some networks will do that kicking off in the spring. Some might condense it just to the fall. So stay tuned after you sign up. You'll hear from your networks and they'll give you more details on what that timeline looks like for you. And again, just really ask that you come ready to listen, ready to participate. And we may ask that you do some preparation in advance of the session. We have things like Academy e-learning courses and lots of other different Global Compact resources that could be helpful to just set the scene for everyone before you join the session. But definitely not a heavy workload, really just, some upskilling and level setting that might be shared in advance. Anything else on that front, Caitlin?
No. Well, there's one question that I would actually love for us to answer live from Chloe, who asked, the form request to participants, is it okay to only have one if we are a small company? What would you say to that, Caitlin?
I would say that's fine. Yeah, I think we're open to that. I don't think it requires you to have a second name, but if it does, you can maybe just put your name again. But yeah, I think open to that for sure. We know companies have different sizes and different amounts of people working on these topics.
Exactly. We would just encourage, if you are just one person, we know it is, we would love to be sure that you're able to join all of the sessions. So if you can keep that in mind as you sign up, but as Caitlin said, we completely understand different models work for different companies. All right. The next question that we often get, Caitlin, is around how a participant can connect peer learning groups to the rest of the Global Compact's programming portfolio.
Yes. So this is a great question. We really see this as a new offering to engage. So participants can join a peer learning group if this is their first interaction with the Global Compact. That's great. If you've already participated in an accelerator on gender or climate, you can definitely still also participate in PLGs. So really anyone is welcome. We think it's an entry point that adds to all of the Global Compact programming or can be an entryway because it's really adding that new focus on community building, collective problem solving, and conversation with your peers. So really anyone is welcome. And we also want to emphasize that as a participant of the Global Compact, you already have access to the UN Global Compact Academy. So if you feel like you want to brush up on these topics beforehand or just refresh, we have a lot of foundational knowledge available to you there as well.
Caitlin, we flashed it earlier, but can you go over again which local networks are running peer learning groups this year?
Yes, so we have the list here. This is all networks running them as you would have seen on the previous slide. Different networks are running different topics based on, what are the local priorities and most applicable to your local context. So you will see when you go to fill out the form at this link, once you select your country, you'll have the option of which ones are available in which country. And there's also a drop down available on the website. So we hope that's clear, but please reach out if you have questions.
Maybe a follow-up to that, Caitlin, and I'm happy to take it, is what does it mean if my network is not included here?
Yeah.
And let's add, we can add this link here into the chat so that everyone can easily access it. LAC, of course, is a region that's Latin America and the Caribbean region. So if you are in that region, you do have a peer learning groups offered to you. It sort of got lumped in here, but that's actually quite really broadens the number of countries available. But yeah, so for the peer learning offering, this is truly locally delivered. So unfortunately, if your local network is not listed here, that does mean that the peer learning group for 2024 is not available to you locally as designed. But there's two actions that you can take. The first is to check in if you're in a country with a local network. Some local networks are doing their own peer learning groups on different topics. So if this is a learning modality that would be of interest to you, I would strongly encourage you to look into whether your local network is doing something similar on different topics that we're not coordinating at the global level. And then the other is that if you're in a country without a local network, or if they're not offering a peer learning group, unfortunately, that does mean that the peer learning group is not available as an option in 2024. But I say this on the heels of knowing that there is a suite of additional ways to engage with the Global Compact. And we're happy to support navigating that, but that includes our academy sessions, which have a diversity of types of sessions. Beyond our on-demands, we have a number of deep dives with issue experts and learning series that are really dynamic. We also have our accelerators. We currently are in recruitment right now for our Climate Ambition Accelerator. In the next 2 weeks, around March 13th, we'll be launching signups for this next round of Target Gender Equality. So those are really similar topics. If you're interested in climate or gender, in that case, those two are launching now. Our SDG Ambition Accelerator is also, that will launch in July. That's also supporting companies in setting ambitious goals. In September, we'll have the Business and Human Rights Accelerator launching. And in October, SDG Innovation, looking at innovative business models. So all of those would have global as well as local offerings. And so if this is feeling disappointing to you, I think we hopefully have a number of other options available. I see a number of questions. Let's do the timeline, Caitlin, then we can take some of the questions coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. So I think this is our last one. So just a quick overview of that timeline. Registration is now open. You can register at the link below, and that's now in the chat. That global registration will end on 25th March. So we encourage you to sign up by then. But exact dates will vary by country. So some networks might leave things open a little bit longer if they're planning to run things a little bit later in the year. But you can just register via a quick form at that link. And then once your application is approved, you'll hear from your local network. They'll reach out with onboarding materials and information about the exact timing and flow of your peer learning group. So be on the lookout for that. And sessions will take place between early this year. So as we mentioned, some networks kicking off right away. Some will wait until later, but all peer learning groups will conclude by the end of 2024. So those details will be shared with you individually. So with that, I think we can turn over to the Q&A, as you said, Caitlin.
Yeah, we have a couple of great questions coming in. I'm going to take this one from Katerina first. What is the difference between an accelerator and a peer learning group? That is a great question. The peer learning groups, as we've been saying, are very focused on peer-to-peer learning and sharing, right? It's a bit of a, it's for like that is the goal in and of itself, community building, discussing challenges, and making progress based on that connection. The accelerators, and they also critically are light sort of on the homework. Caitlin mentioned we'll perhaps share pre-reads with you to check out and suggest additional resources. But it's relatively light and contained to those 5 to 6 90-minute sessions. So over the course of the 6 to 8 months, 4 to 8 months, depending on your network, you can expect to be spending like between 10 to 15 hours kind of maximum on a peer learning group, and likely towards the lower end of that spectrum, because we really, you and your experiences are the source of knowledge that we're bringing to the peer learning groups, right? You're both a teacher and a student in this context. The accelerators are a more intense experience because they have the explicit goal of supporting companies in achieving a defined behavior change from the start of the program to the end of the program. So if, for example, I'll take the climate portfolio here as an example. If you want to discuss your challenges working on climate, setting science-based targets, or in this case, working on just transition, the peer learning group is the place for you. You already have something underway that you want to discuss, or you are thinking about doing more work there and want to sort of see what's happening. That is a great place for the peer learning group. The Climate Ambition Accelerator, on the other hand, is very focused on supporting companies in being able to set a science-based target by the time the program concludes. So it's a heavier lift required in terms of mandatory on-demand content and a mix of workshops that are kind of like a little bit more intense than what you'd experience in the peer learning group, expert sessions, and some homework. So overall, an accelerator is more likely to be 30 to 40 hours over the course of the year, and it can be more if a company is very seriously doing their homework and activities, things like that. So overall, we would say that an accelerator is more intense, but more outcome driven. And the peer learning group, less intense, very much more oriented around peer-to-peer learning, sharing, and discussing. Both have great value, and I see, it's very easy to think of why you'd want to be in both, depending on the circumstance, but for sure, there's just different approaches that are covered there. A second question that I would love for us to answer live is this one from Marley. The only challenge we have as a multi-jurisdiction company is that we need to pay local fees if we want to participate in more than one local network. I understand that, and it is the way that we are structured. So you have, of course, your one local network, your home local network is included within your participant fee, but it is true that there in some networks are additional fees for subsidiaries or other offices in terms of local participation before you can join local programs. It is the case. So if you want support in thinking about how to prioritize, we are here to support you making those decisions. And we also know it can be something where you change countries in any given year. We're very open to those considerations, but you have identified a fact there. That is the way that we're structured. And then here from Zachary, can we have public interaction peer group as an SDG UNGC nonprofit? So This will depend on your local network. Local non-business participation is largely driven by the local network, and some local networks will, I know for sure, be welcoming non-business participation. That may not be the case for all. So, but I know many will. I see your question, Zachary, around the Earth Day event or peer group booth. Maybe we can chat on the side if you send us a chat to me or Caitlin to answer a bit more about that. We, as the Global Compact, don't have any of our own Earth Day events besides we do a lot of promotion across social media, and I know there's other events that may be happening locally, but it isn't something that we prioritize with any in-person events here at our headquarters. All right. Caitlin, here's one for you. As for specific dates, should we contact our individual local networks to get information on the scheduling throughout the year? This will influence whether we send 1 or 2 people as participants.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the best way to get that information. If you don't have the contact information of your local network, you can reach out to us generally, and I'll put our email in the chat and we can put you in touch. But if you already have a contact point at your network, you can go ahead and reach out to them and they can share those specific details. But I would say already feel free to sign up.
Yeah. Yep. And we have some of the dates and tentative dates, so maybe we can also on our side compile those and share publicly so that they're accessible where networks have already shared them, maybe on our FAQ. Great question. All right, Christian, we would like to check our local network program in detail. How should we proceed? We are new Global Compact member. Welcome to the Global Compact. We're very happy to support you. If you send me a chat on the side about what your company name is and where you are based and your email address, I will be very happy to look into that for you. So please chat us with your circumstance. But in general, just in case there are others in that situation, when you join the Global Compact, if you are, for example, headquartered in the United States, you are sort of automatically a part of the US local network, and they have a website rich with their programming opportunities and details there, but we can support directing you that way. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any coming through on the chat. We're here in our FAQ portion. So what we can do, I think, is Caitlin, do we have a reminder that we can share about signups? Share the links to sign up.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to this link and click register, you'll be taken right to that form. There you go. And then you'll hear from your local network shortly afterwards. And you'll also receive this recording and the slides for this in the next few days. So don't worry about missing out on any of the information.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, Christian, if you email us, or maybe that's going to be the best way to get in touch, we're happy to support. But thank you all for your questions and your participation. We hope to see many of you signing up for the peer learning groups, and we look forward to hearing about your experience this year. If you have any other questions, Caitlin shared our email is peerlearning@unglobalcompact.org, and we are always available to answer any additional questions that you may have at this time. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.